Hey Lamomet friends! Andang here for another epic story leveling stream. It has only been since December since we've done one of these, and that's mostly because Bingo Boffin kind of just took over my streaming life for LOTRO. But we're here again to be leveling up, and a reminder that this character is basically only allowed to level using skirmishes and the epic story. So we're going to be doing lots and lots of skirmishes. And joining with me tonight, I actually have Brannick. So welcome, Brannick.
I'm not going to be skirmishing.
No, you already you already do enough of that with Pineleaf every week, pretty much.
Actually, it's been a while since I've skirmished with Pine Leaf.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's see which one we want to do first here. We'll start with Defense of the Prancing Pony, I suppose. We'll go ahead and go right into it. So, for those watching this later, I am recording this late at night, so if I'm not as energetic as normal, then that's probably why. And it's really not that late at night, but I've been waking up really early the last few days,
The
so
inhabitants
it's
of
late for
Bree
me.
have spent the occupation holed up within the Prancing Pony. Angered at their uprising, the brigands have decided to burn them out.
Okay. All right, and welcome Starman and Zinger to the chat. Nice to have you here.
Have I really been doing enough, Zinger?
I think you have been doing enough of some form of Pineleaf making an app. Which, by the way, people on my YouTube channel might not know about your app, Brannick. So why don't you go ahead and tell them all about it?
Okay, well now I'm on the spot. Um, why don't you talk about something else for a while so I can have a better prepared statement
That
instead of rambling?
sounds like a good idea. So why don't I first of all actually summon my pet that you're supposed to have out when you're playing a lore master. Even though I'm already into the skirmish. So there we go. And oh no, surprise, surprise, a brigand with a torch is actually gonna try to burn down the prancing pony.
Don't let him.
Why not?
Well, if I had designed the quest, it would only take one torch to fill a skirmish, so that's how I treat that skirmish.
I could see maybe one not catching on fire right away since there is snow on the ground, so things are damp. But it shouldn't take more than two, I wouldn't think.
Yeah, I can see like the one freebie, but I always try to play as if even like if any flame touches it, like it's over.
Yeah, well, I mean, if it
Just
wasn't
because it's
snowing,
not, I
then
mean,
maybe,
it's not
but
a very challenging skirmish to begin with.
I agree. But the fact that it's literally snowing makes it to where I think, well, maybe.
The snow
You
just
should
makes it
allow.
that much more awesome.
Oh yeah, definitely. I'm not opposed to the snow. I'm just saying that since it is, you should probably be given a freebie for physics reasons.
Well, I don't know. I mean, it is fantasy, and there's a lot of like physics things that are completely wrong in pretty much all fantasy.
This is true, especially the Hobbit Peter Jackson films.
I guess what I could do is just read the really real thing that I posted on LOTRO Players that you asked me to put. Why did you ask me to post an article on LOTRO Players? Was it just to have something to link to, or?
It was that, and it was also because there's a lot of people who don't regularly listen to the podcast, and so that would allow them to see that without, having to know about it. It also helps with search results, and I don't know.
Suppose that's true.
It just seemed appropriate.
But yeah, I mean, if I'm gonna summarize it quickly, then this is probably the quickest way I could, is just reading this thing that I wrote. So it began as one of those funny fake ads that Carvet likes to include in Lotro Players News. Pine Leaf Countdown, a Hobbit-sized timer to keep you on pace for whatever you need. Almost immediately after the ad aired, Andang, I wonder who that is, Andang
Yeah.
mentioned that someone should make it a real app. And I was stupid enough to comment in the live chat that it would be an easy app to make. Suddenly committed to actually making Pine Leaf Countdown a reality, I decided to do more than just make a simple timer app, which is what I had in mind when I was saying how easy it'd be to make. So over the past few months, I've put a lot of thought and effort into making it. And it is now available to the public. So if you have always wanted to have your very own Pine Leaf to keep you on task, now you can.
And since Pine Leaf is actually usually part of these streams, it's actually kind of appropriate to be talking about it on here. So if you want Pine Leaf counting down, you can have that on.
Wait, does that mean I should have him say something on here?
Yeah, if you want to, you could have him. And actually, since I'm streaming, I can't get to it quickly. If you could give me a link over Skype, I can actually load it up and it'll have a lot better audio.
Sure.
And I'll get to that after I deal with the brigand.
You mean you don't have clandestine-games.com bookmarked?
I do. It would still take longer than I'd want to. But I do actually have the scoop link on your site bookmarked.
Cool. Yeah, which I'll be able to get back to working on Scoop soon and
Yeah.
get that thing out of beta.
Which is actually a thing that I've featured a few times on my channel. So that's actually exciting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, your gameplay video is still, when people go to download it, like, it's still your gameplay video to demonstrate it.
Awesome.
From the last update of it, when I added the poker theme.
Which is also awesome.
I still prefer the Halloween theme, just because of the like the pixel art, the sprites in it. I really like the devil for the red.
And Zinger in the chat says, "Oh, you do some kind of podcast?" Yes, Zinger. And for those that don't know, I do LOTRO Players News. I'm a co-host on there. And I'm also the founder of LOTROPlayers.com, the lead director. So.
Yep.
And Brannick, I guess you're also a founder, if we want to say that.
I mean, if you consider giving LOTRO Players its name, being a founder, then sure. Aside from that, I didn't really do much aside from talk about, the concept of it. And
Well, I mean, you've been
agree that
there
it'd be
since
cool.
since the conceptual stage, so.
Well, that's true. I did, move LOTRO Academy over to it.
You honestly had
as the very
probably
first thing,
the
so.
majority of articles at the start.
Well, the only article I've ever written was Pine Leaf Countdown is really real. Everything else is a podcast episode.
Yep. But it's still more of those than anything else, I think, at the start, so.
Oh yeah, I'm sure at the start, because I, copied everything over. So I had all the back episodes and everything. But yeah, if you haven't tried Pine Leaf Countdown yet, definitely give it a try. The response has been overwhelming. People really, really seem to love it.
And just so people know again, where can they go to get it?
Clandestine-games.com.
Alright.
And I can go ahead and put a link in chat as well.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. And we were close to dying there. This is what happens when we talk with Brannick. Okay. Few moments to rest. Time to look at the pine leaf countdown.
Yeah, because remember, one of my goals is to distract you. Because I'm not playing. I could care less about the whole playing Lotro part of it. Like last time you had me on and I was playing Star Maid the whole time.
I don't always play games, but when I do, I prefer LOTRO. 10 minutes.
And pine leaf will just count down and super awesome. And when you go away, he growls. So there you go.
Well, he might. That's one of the things he can say.
Exactly.
And that growl is awesome. It's the only thing that was not recorded specifically for the app.
Oh, really?
Everything else, like I wrote up a script, and I had like Pine Leaf with a good mic and a pop filter on his own, recording locally on his computer in a high quality, uncompressed WAV file, which he sent to me. So I was working with super high quality audio. That growl is from a LOTRO Academy episode that was so awesome that pretty much moments after he did it, I said it, on the episode that I have to put that in the app somewhere. I have to find a spot for it.
If you want a crazy pine leaf laugh that's really obnoxious, I have one of those if you ever want it.
I might. That could be. I mean, I was actually sort of looking for one because I wasn't going to try and get that scripted because that's not something he's going to be able to do on command.
Right. Although you'd be surprised.
But I did think about getting a bunch of jokes and just like telling him jokes so that I could get him to laugh.
He probably wouldn't get half the references, though.
Well, actually, we ended up recording all of that stuff basically in an hour before a field trip. So I didn't have time for anything fancy like that to try and get a laugh or anything. We actually managed to get through everything with like a couple of minutes to spare in one recording session. And yeah, I wish it was available for iOS as well, but blame Apple or the fact that I don't have a Mac and Apple won't. I mean, you need, in addition to their outrageous fee of $100 a year for developer license, which for reference for Android it's a one-time fee of $25 to Google. As opposed to the annual $100 for Apple. But you also actually need to have a Mac in order to compile for iOS.
Yeah.
Because it needs to compile through Xcode, which needs to be done on a Mac. And I can't afford one, I mean, I've got 2 games out so far. Barely made any money. Granted, Scoop is still in beta, but I don't expect it to make a lot of money because it's a free app, with a premium version that is completely optional because it's only cosmetic. But I mean, the goal there is to get people to know about clandestine games. But yeah, I mean, eventually I would like to make enough money from selling my games and such that I can get a Mac and then be able to release stuff on iOS as well.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
But that's why I did a web app version, because I knew that, at least the app would be available on an iOS device that way because they do have HTML5 compatible browsers. So at least it's still possible to access the app.
Yeah, that's a good idea, actually. And Invir asks, Andeng, how did you get the sticky cord quick slot onto the toolbar? Well, I think it automatically gets on there, but you can actually just click on character and then go to skills, and then you have all your skills there and you can drag any of them onto your bar. as you see fit.
Wait, you go to character and skills? Why not just hit K?
Because I'm one of the few people that just doesn't bother to learn quick things.
Okay. Wow, I did not know that about you. Sure.
I mean, I know.
Shortcut keys are good, man.
I mean, I know like the a few of them. Like, well, I thought I knew. Where is? There we go. It wasn't working earlier. Control K, it takes you to the skirmish panel. That's like one of the few that I use.
You don't like click on the little bag icons, do you, to bring up your bags?
Oh, no, no, no. I use inventory. I use inventory. Don't worry. But I mean, I only have 2 bags because I've combined everything using that. So that's not even that big of an issue if I did either. But yeah, I definitely use inventory. So
Anytime anyone sees my UI, they think I'm crazy because I moved everything around. I use one big bag that covers all of my skills.
I had one big bag, but I decided I keep stuff that I'm for sure going to be keeping. I have in one bag, and then like junk I keep in the other. So all that vendor trash goes in the second bag or first bag or whatever.
Hold on, I gotta interrupt you because Sam's over here mentioning the Amiga 500, which is the computer I grew up with. Granted, I had a Commodore Plus 4 before that, but I was really too young to have very fond memories of that. But the Amiga 500, holy crap, man, that's what I grew up with. All my friends had like Nintendo and Genesis and Super Nintendo, and I had the Amiga 500.
The forces of the enemy have marched
I didn't have a
up to the
PC
bank of the
until I
Breen
think 2000 or
and await the
2001,
sign
something
to
like that.
attack. Dark clouds roll in as a great storm approaches. If the fort falls, Rivendell shall
There
not
we
be
go.
far behind it. The battle is nearly upon you.
Yeah, I was a console player. I didn't have a PC until
Yeah, I mean, I wanted a console growing up. Like, I mean, that was the popular thing. We were odd, man. To be an American with an Amiga 500, nobody knew what the hell an Amiga 500 was.
yeah.
Like, in the 80s, nobody knew what an Amiga was unless you were a super geek in America. Like, in the UK, it was huge. But here, like, if you had a computer, it was probably an Apple II, you know? Oh, awesome. 98 was actually when I first decided that I was definitely going to get a PC, because that's when Baldur's Gate came out.
Since my mom actually worked, she was a stay-at-home mom, but she also had like a job that she did through like the internet. She actually was able. She basically, her boss bought her a Mac, and continued to upgrade her Mac as the years progressed. And so we always had a Mac that was just like the family computer for years and years and years. It wasn't until like 2008 that I finally got a PC.
Okay. Oh man, I have a book on Amos somewhere. I think it's boxed up in a closet for Amiga. And I used to program in Amiga Basic, and in Basic on Commodore 64 and on an Apple II, actually. All way before I had a PC.
Yeah. The first console I played on was an N64.
Okay. I think the first console I played on was probably an NES, like at a friend's house or something.
It was at my cousin's house, and I actually ended up skipping dinner that night without realizing it. Nobody ever came and got me and told me it was time for dinner, apparently.
Nice.
And so they just realized how addicted I was to that, or how much I liked it, because I'd never played a console before. And so
Right.
they actually got paid by somebody, because they were out in the country, and so they were doing stuff for people, and this guy couldn't pay him, so instead he just gave him a PlayStation 1. And they didn't want a PlayStation because they already had their N64.
Wait, what? That's a terrible idea. PlayStation's way better than the Nintendo 64.
Right, but they weren't that into gaming. And anyway, they just gave me, out of the blue, a PlayStation.
Wow, that's awesome.
And it wasn't like birthday or anything like that, it was just random gift. And yeah,
That's awesome.
that was really cool.
Mookie in chat says their 4000 is still up and running. I'm assuming that's the Amiga 4000. I've never used one of those, but actually it's kind of a crazy story. My dad, because again, I grew up with Amiga. My dad was like die hard Amiga. Like didn't want to touch a PC. Like we used to have like loading screens of like fake or not loading screens, but like wallpapers, like desktop wallpapers, and images that were like fake booting screens for Windows that would say Windows is now loading, come back tomorrow. Because that was, one of the things with the Amiga is it booted a lot faster than a Windows machine
Right.
did back in the day. Yeah, my 500 still works as well. I still have probably a couple hundred discs for it. I just don't have it hooked up. But the crazy thing is my dad, it wasn't until either 2004 or 2005, I think 2005, when I finally convinced him that, Dad, okay, it's finally time to get a PC. He was connecting to the internet, like probably the only person in the country actually connecting to the internet with an Amiga 1200 through like some crazy SCSI adapter connection and into a modem and all this stuff in order to get the hardware to work and actually connect to dial-up. With the Eyebrows browser, stupidest name for a browser. And the logo was like literally an eyebrows. But yeah, I mean that like my earliest online experiences were with the Amiga going into BBSs and stuff, downloading games. Did I must have told you this story, ending of the first actual console I had and how I got it.
I probably, but it's been a long time since I've heard it.
I was in high school before I, actually got a console. You know, I was able to, buy one with my own money, and I had been playing consoles, off and on all my life, just like at friends' house or whatever. And I knew like I wanted a Sega Genesis because there were Genesis games that I really liked,
Yeah.
and I also was really interested in like a lot of the stuff for the Sega CD. But of course, this was, PlayStation was already out
Right.
at this time. I don't remember. If I were to guess a year, I'd say 97, may have been 96. But I finally got like a good deal, something I could afford, because I didn't have a lot of money to spend, but I was planning to buy a Genesis and a Sega CD, once I had enough expendable income or disposable income to be able to do that. And one day I happened to be skipping school with my friend, and they only had three of them left at Best Buy. The JVC XI, which was on clearance, like closeout, because nobody was buying them anymore. Because
Right.
I mean, that's old stuff, man. It's on to the PlayStation. Um, But the JVC-XI, I don't remember how much I paid for it, but I got like a super good deal on it. It was well less than $100. I know that, and it's a Sega Genesis and a Sega CD in one. It's
Right.
actually better than the CDX, which is the combo unit that Sega released themselves. It was officially licensed by Sega, but it was manufactured by JVC, so it's a JVC XI. But it was actually better than the CDX because it had a double speed CD-ROM drives, and CDX only had the 1X, so the loading times are faster. And it also had way more features. It had like a microphone port on the side where you could plug in like a real microphone, and the music player had all kinds of filters and stuff in it, like way advanced controls compared to any other console out there. And you could actually like adjust the levels and drop out the like the center channel, which for most CDs would reduce the vocals, so that you just got the music without the vocals, and you could basically turn any CD into a karaoke CD and plug in your microphone.
That's awesome.
Um, there were so many awesome things. It came with a bunch of games for it, like Sega CD games. Came with the Sega CD version of Compton's Interactive Encyclopedia, which is what people used before there was Wikipedia. If you wanted like an interactive encyclopedia. But yeah, like if I would not have been skipping school, I never would have found it. Not in time, certainly, because there was only like three left. So yeah. But seriously, stay in school, kids.
Yeah. So, crazy thing that's going on. Apparently, Elro here thinks it's a great idea to run back to the Defilers every time combat finishes in the Fortebrunnen skirmish. So he's like way far forward, right next, literally right on top of where one of the Defilers spawns. So I think somehow his default location is the Defiler location. It got mixed up somehow. That's the only thing I can explain why he's going all the way up there.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Seems like a pine leaf question.
I keep I keep avoiding looking at the video because I hear you talking, but there's a super long delay, so like I don't see you talking and it's weird.
Right.
So I just look away. I look at chat instead.
Well, you can pop out the chat so you don't even have to ignore me.
Well, I'm leaving the video up. I have it muted so that you're not getting feedback, but I'm leaving it up even though there's a delay in case like there's something interesting that happens that I can, like know what you're talking about.
Right.
Even though I most likely won't because it'll like have already happened before or something.
But Elro here is really wanting to kill himself, it seems. He's at like half health for no reason, other than just that he can't handle
Yeah.
not running forward.
Sam says still to this day he gets nostalgic for the old Amiga games. I actually credit an Amiga game with making me a gamer. Like even before I'd played the Fairy Tale Adventure, which came out in 1986 for the Amiga. Even before I played that, like I liked games, and like I mean, like I said, I started with the Commodore Plus, where that was our first family computer, which is basically a Commodore 64, except with way less memory and like a super cheap budget entry level computer. But it wasn't something I was super into until I played the Fairy Tale Adventure, and years later. I mean, the Fairy Tale Adventure is the game. I grew up with that game. We did not have a lot of games for the Amiga, and that was one I played all the time. I'd always go back to it. I also played a lot of Uninvited and Shadowgate, but Fairy Tale Adventure was like my game. And years later, I actually got into an email conversation with the developer, David Joyner, who goes by the name Talon, and he actually he emailed me the actual MIDI files that he composed for the music for that game, so that
Wow.
I could use them in a Neverwinter Nights module based on it that I was working on, that ultimately was never released because I didn't know enough about it to do everything I wanted myself. My design ambitions were too grand for my abilities, and I couldn't find a team of other people interested in working on that particular project. I guess not many people had the same experience. But yeah, he was a super nice guy too. So I mean, I credit the Fairy Tale Adventure with making me a gamer.
That's awesome.
And now my life is pretty much dedicated to video games. You know,
Pretty much.
just studying their design. At the time when I was emailing him, he was working as a programmer on it was one of the Sims 2 expansion packs. I'm pretty sure it was University. I don't remember if there's like more to like University Life or whatever the University one was for The Sims 2. He was working on that at the time.
I think it was just University.
I think
And that was the first expansion for The Sims 2, I think.
it might have been. I don't remember.
Pretty sure it was.
Because I actually didn't play The Sims until way later.
I didn't either. I just followed it very closely. Because I was always thinking, well, I should get it someday, but never got around to it. And man, The Sims 2 seasons I still have not gotten, but it just looked so cool.
Wait, do you have The Sims 2, but not seasons?
I have The Sims 2. I also have Open for Business. I love.
You totally missed out then, man. There was a good 6 months or so where if you had any version of Sims 2, which you could add to your Origin account for free if you had the retail copy, because that's how I got mine.
Well, see, mine's Mac though, and now I'm on PC, so it doesn't do any good. Yeah.
The CD key wouldn't.
It's
Wouldn't
Mac,
work?
no, because it's adapted by a different. It's like adapted through a different company. So.
Gotcha. Ah, that sucks. Because for like 6 months, basically they stopped selling The Sims 2 on Origin like entirely. But for 6 months, like if you had, actually no, I think they just let you know about it if you had The Sims 2. But I think anyone. I think anyone
Now-
could actually go in and type in the code. All you had to do was like redeem a code, you know, where you would put in your serial key and just say "I love The Sims," and you would get Sims 2 complete with all the expansions.
Wow. Now, if it had been The Sims 3 and I think The Sims 4, then I could have done that because the codes are, you know, they both.
Well, like I said,
work,
I
but-
don't think you even needed a copy of the game.
Right. Well, I missed that boat.
Yeah, I would have told you about it at the time if I would have known. I know I told a bunch of people. I think Koshi was the one who first brought it to my attention, actually. More than likely.
But yeah, I don't use Origin enough. I really need to start paying more attention to it.
Well, it's not my go-to, but
It's
there
not
are.
at all my go. Like
Yeah, I mean, the first places I look are well, actually, the first place I look is GOG, unless it's a game I care about achievements on, in which case the first place I look is Steam.
I probably log into Origin maybe once every 3 months.
Yeah, well, see, this is something that I learned after years of unemployment with like very, very little money to spend, is like how to spot a good deal. So at least every week I've gotten into the habit of seeing what's on sale on Steam, what's on sale on GOG, what's on sale on Origin, what's on sale on Gamersgate, what's on sale on like Green Man Gaming, and just like I've got a bunch of sites I go through, and and see what's on sale. And Bundle Stars is really good.
Yep. See, I look on Green Man Gaming Bundle Stars and Steam, but I don't, and Humble Bundle, but I don't look
Yeah.
on anything else. I should probably, but I just don't. Already, that's fairly time consuming doing that every week. But
I mean, honestly, if I had to like pick a preferred platform, it's got to be GOG, which used to mean good old games, but they have more than just old games now, so they officially renamed it to GOG. It's no longer an acronym or an abbreviation, but like I've had an account there since it was in beta, and I always want to support GOG because it's everything is DRM free.
yeah.
And they put work into getting their game. Like I was telling you before about Railroad Tycoon,
Hmm.
and how
What was
like
once an
Railroad Tycoon
important
2 and 3
fortification
were
of the
difficult to
enemy
get
is
running
now
on a
held by
modern
a small
computer.
band of
Like if
elves.
you have
The
like I still
enemy
have a
seeks
retail
to
copy of
reclaim their
Railroad
fortress,
Tycoon 2
marching upon it
that
in
is just
force.
a pain to try and get
Fortunately,
working
some of the
on a
ballistine
modern
catapults
PC.
there still
But
function.
I was able to get it cheap in a sale on GOG, and they do all that work to make sure it runs on a modern PC. And it'll tell you on the store page, like it says it, all Windows up to Windows 10, so it's like this'll work. And the fact that it's DRM free, just from a principled standpoint is awesome because honestly, DRM only affects the consumers. All it does is, annoy and frustrate and interrupt, legitimate consumers because pirates are just going to get past it. They don't have to deal with the DRM. They just crack it and they never have to deal with it. But legitimate customers end up being screwed over, especially with the more abusive DRM structures that are out there. Many of which have actually installed rootkits onto people's machines.
And Pineleaf's not here to do the ballistas.
No, but he's here to count.
Yep.
One of the thought bubbles is about the ballista. I don't know if you saw that.
I think I vaguely remember that. I don't remember what it was though.
He's just like excited. I get to play with ballista because I've looked it up. Grammatically speaking, the plural of ballista is ballistae. You just
It
add
is. Yep.
an e to the end of it. So yeah, he's all excited. I get to play with ballistae.
And you actually change it to ballistae, but anyway.
Or okay,
Yeah, I don't know why, but that's a thing.
that's weird. But okay.
I think it has to do with like it being converted from French or something. I
Oh,
don't
I
know.
don't know. It's not a word that is typically used in modern English, quite honestly.
No, but I used it quite a bit in my Crusades class that I took
I
this
don't
last
doubt
semester.
it. It is way past his bedtime. Although I've often actually kept him up later than this. Sometimes, like if you see an episode of LOTRO Academy that's more than 2 hours long, keep in mind there's usually at least 45 minutes that are cut.
Right.
So, um, there's been a few episodes where Pine Leaf is a
Well,
real trooper.
there's one thing though, that's on a Friday, and he is willing
That's
to
true.
break it on Fridays, not on Saturdays because that's before church, and then not throughout the week because
That's
that's
true.
before his work.
And
So,
we try not to abuse that. We don't often have super long episodes, but when we do, it's like, we'll get to the end of it, and normally we chat a little bit afterwards, but at the end of the really long ones, it's like, all right, Pine Leaf, see you later, man. Get some sleep.
and apparently my skirmish soldier took like 30 shots of coffee all of a sudden because he is sprinting around. Oh, not that one. Oh well.
Hopefully all this talk of like old computers and stuff is not boring people.
I find it really interesting, and if you're interested in this type of stuff, I highly recommend LGR on YouTube, Lazy Game Reviews. He does all sorts of old technology videos and things like that, and really recommend it to anybody that's watching. And I think, Brannick, you're also subscribed to them, aren't you?
Yeah, he has a really nice collection of PC games.
Yeah.
Like collection.
Yeah.
Dude is a legitimate collector and plays on, old hardware too. Like for
He
a
has
DOS
a nice
game,
collection of old hardware, even. I mean,
yeah,
it is...
exactly. But the crazy thing is like when you watch his videos where he'll play an old game, he'll be like, yeah, so I, never played this game before, so I downloaded it on GOG and tried it out or whatever, and it was super awesome. And then, like, the next video, in the background, you see he's managed to track down a retail box
Right.
factory from back in the day, and it's on his shelf. It's pretty interesting to...
Well, he goes thrifting, and those somehow, and I swear it's just because of his voiceover, the way he does it, his thrift videos are actually really interesting, where he's just going to Goodwill, and yet he has like interesting commentary every time.
Especially when it comes to like old computer stuff. Like nobody knows how to deal with that stuff. Consoles these days, people know more than they used to. It used to be you could go to a pawn shop and get great deals on consoles games because nobody knew crap about the value of video games. Like I got Secret of Mana for $10 on Super Nintendo, at a pawn shop because hey, it was a video game. All video games are $10 a pop. That's just how they handled it. But yeah, probably the best find that I've got was I picked up Alpha Centauri retail, like brand new when it first came out, in the store. It was actually probably the first PC game I got new and really, really loved it. To this day, it's my favorite Civilization game. But I never got the expansion for it when it came out. And I always, kind of wanted it, but either couldn't afford it or when I could, I couldn't find it anywhere. And eventually, years and years and years later, it was probably 2004, I happened to be with a friend of mine in Goodwill in California and just kind of browsing around, and they had a copy of the expansion pack, which I'm blanking on the name right now and I don't know why. It's right on my shelf. It's Alien Crossfire. I didn't need to go look at it. But yeah, I've been looking for this Alien Crossfire for years and years and years. Finally, I see a copy of it, and I'm looking all over for a price, and I don't see a price on it. Well, I see a price, but it looks like it can't be right. Like, it said something like 10 cents or something. And I'm like, there's other software next to it as well. And like it's more reasonably priced. It's still, pretty cheap, but it's not 10 cents cheap. So I take it up to the counter, and it looks like the price tag was from something else, but that was the only price tag on it. And I wasn't trying to rip them off or anything, so I brought it to their attention, and the guy at the counter didn't know what to do about it either, so he got his manager. The manager's like, that's the price it says on it. That's all you gotta pay, man. 10 cents. It's like, okay.
That's amazing.
This game I've been looking for more than a decade. I just finally managed to track down like the only copy I've seen available in my life, aside from when it, very first came out, and I get it for 10 cents.
That's awesome.
Like in the original box in great condition. I was blown away. Now, in retrospect, it probably wasn't worth the wait because it's not that good of an expansion, and the game is better played without it. But still,
Yeah, that's really amazing. We will hopefully get to 86 this episode. I'm hoping. It's a long haul, though.
yeah, exactly, Sam. Wow, only 10 cents. I kept trying to convey that to people because nobody cared. Everybody was like, that's just some like old. I did see. The crazy thing is, I didn't even have a computer with me at the time.
Wow.
I was living in a tent in California, and my computer was still here in Missouri. I was just out there for a while. Um, so I basically just bought it to hold on to until, I had access to my computer again. But, I was not going to pass that up. But because I had this, like, I bought this PC game and didn't have a PC game with me, I was trying to, like, explain to people why it was a big deal. I'd been looking to this for this thing for years. It was the expansion pack to Alpha Centauri, the Alien Crossfire expansion pack. And if you're not familiar, Alpha Centauri is basically the sequel to Civilization 2, sort of. It came. A lot of the code for Civilization 3 actually is based on Alpha Centauri's code. A lot of the, like, under the hood stuff, if you hear any stories about its development. But
Yeah.
it was designed by Brian Reynolds, who also designed Civilization 2 and then went on to design Rise of Nations.
Which is an awesome game. I love
Yeah.
that game.
And in my opinion, Alpha Centauri is even better. Like it is still the best Civilization game. In my opinion.
Yeah, I haven't played around with it enough to know enough
I mean,
about it.
I love Civ 4, and I love Civ 5, but Civ 5 is a very different game. Civ 4 is kind of the pinnacle of these like pre-Civ 5 Civ
Yeah.
type of experience, with the exception of what Civ 3 lost after Alpha Centauri, because Alpha Centauri was incredibly innovative, and some of the things were sort of taken a little bit and brought into Civ 3, but a lot of it was just thrown out the window.
Have you seen the Civ 6 stuff?
A little bit.
I have very mixed feelings about it.
Yeah, I actually don't know a lot of the details about it. I'm kind of waiting. I'll wait until I can at least consider, whether I want to buy it when it comes out. And right now, that's not even a consideration, just due to lack of finances, because I'm still waiting to find out if I even have this job. It's been almost a month, and I'm still waiting on a background check. So right now, it's off the table for me, so I'm not worried about it.
But yeah, it looks like the art style is kind of a cross between Civilization Revolution, which is the console Civ thing.
And it's also a good game in its own right,
It is,
but it has very different design goals.
but it's just kind of weird that they're making that choice for the sixth one after they went so photo, so trying to do realistic type landscapes and things like that in Civ 5. It just seems kind of weird.
I mean, I haven't looked at it very closely, but what I saw sort of reminded me of the art style in Endless Legend,
Yeah.
which is a really, really good game. Um, so,
There are
I
some,
don't know.
I don't know, there's some interesting things that I've been reading that they're doing that make me think that maybe the gameplay will be a lot better, just because of some of the
Well, they're
suggestions they're doing. Like, for example, they have wonders that are no longer necessarily inside cities. They can now be like on the landscape, and will provide different bonuses and things like that. And
and
they're completely
I know
changing
they're
how
doing
workers work.
and city specialization stuff like that. They're doing a lot of
Yep.
interesting things, but I don't know. I'm trying not to look into it too much. And I remember like all the hate when Civ 5 came out because it was so different.
We'll
That's
see.
mostly
When
died down now.
What's interesting is when Civ 5 first came out, I loved it. It just didn't have the longevity to allow me to keep liking it
Well,
after it came out.
when it first came out, it was broken, like really badly.
It wasn't when I played it. I played through it on launch and didn't have any glitches or anything.
Well, it wasn't glitchy, but it was very much broken. The AI was ridiculously bad. To the point the AI would never cross an ocean for any reason whatsoever.
I don't think I ever played on a map with an ocean, so that never came up. Early on, anyway.
Civ 2 was the game that actually introduced me to the 4X genre, and of course the Civ series itself. But I actually played probably the worst 4X game to start with. I started with Civilization 2 for the Sony PlayStation. The controls are a lot different, as you might imagine, and a lot of people complain about the controls because they're so weird. But honestly, I never had a problem with the controls. It was my first game, so I had to learn whatever the control scheme was going to be anyway. And it was what they did was they designed a real button control scheme, where you tab through different submenus and things, as opposed to like dragging a fake mouse cursor with a D-pad. So I never had a problem with the controls, but the problem with the PlayStation version of Civilization 2 was the load times, which were absolutely ridiculous. And it, like a lot of console versions of PC games, the PC game will eventually get like a quality of life patch that obviously the console game will not get,
Yep.
it, at least back then. So the it's basically the original release of Civilization 2, which means that there's no way to turn off watching the opponents take their turns. So you have to watch every unit be moved manually,
Great.
and like it would literally take multiple hours between turns at the end of a game.
Wow.
Like you'd make your couple of moves here and there at the end, and then you'd have to like sit there for an hour or two before you had control again to take your next turn. Not the best 4X game to start with, because I don't think I ever finished a game. But when I got a PC, when I got my first PC, Civilization 2 was one of the first games that I bought.
There she goes. Okay, I was trying to figure out what the heck was going on. Have
We had-
you looked into any of the update 18.2 stuff?
Not really.
They're going to be adding a ton more housing hooks and things like that, possibly, if they get it done in time for this update.
Yeah, oh, I mean, you say have I looked into it? I've been watching LOTRO Players News, so I hear
Okay,
what you
so
guys
you know
have to
about
say about it. But I haven't like been looking up the articles and stuff on my own, because I know between LOTRO Players News and talking to people in the academy and recording the academy podcast that I'm going to get that information. So, but Sam is talking about Civ 2 being one of the best Civs, and it's really good. I think a lot of
It
the
is.
design no longer holds up. Um, like one of the big innovations from Alpha Centauri was like national borders, although it wasn't national in that game. There's no nations. But like that was one of the things they did carry forward into Civ 3. And that was super, super important because it got rid of the like territorial control rules, which were always complicated and uh, hard to learn. And also meant that, like in Civ 2, if you wanted to guard something, like to protect your borders, you'd have to like strategically place like actual units around your border and, patrol and all this. There's a lot more micromanagement that just having borders, sort of eliminates.
Yeah.
But because he's mentioning that it had a scenario based on the Swedish RPG Drakar och Demoner. I hope I'm saying that right, but I'm probably not. But it I guess dragons and demons is what it means. But yeah, I don't know if that one, if that scenario is included in Civilization Chronicles, then I have it and have probably played it at least once. Civilization Chronicles is amazing, by the way, but it also, like Civilization 2 had so many expansions, probably more than any other Civ. There's so many different crazy scenarios. One of my favorites is the fantasy scenario, which I've also never completed a game of, but it was so fun. Like, if you like exploring in a 4X game, it's probably the most fun I've had exploring, because it's like playing 4 separate maps at the same time.
Wow.
You've got an underworld, you've got your normal world, you've got like your cloud world, and then like your heavenly world. With all this fantasy stuff going on that you can travel between, like some races start in different worlds. So it's not like everybody just starting in a different place on the map with the potential to go to different worlds. Like you actually start in different ones and are expected to kind of explore and stake out your territory. Like the games are epic. They're way longer than regular Civ 2 games. And Civ 2 games got pretty long.
Yeah.
But that was such an interesting game to play with. They also had a space scenario, which was actually more like something like Galactic Civilizations than it was like Alpha Centauri, where you're actually controlling spaceships and colonizing planets and that sort of thing. Just really interesting stuff, which a lot of it was basically just people modding the stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah,
One of my favorite mods for Civ 4 was Rise and Fall,
Okay.
where they'd actually have rise and fall at appropriate times, but you didn't necessarily have to fall at the appropriate time if you were good enough to keep things around, but then it would still switch things around, so it was just a cool twist on things that kind of added a little bit more historical nature to it.
I'm blanking on the name of it, but there were 2 really big like community mods, like major mods for Civ 4.
Yeah.
One was Rise and Fall, and the other is the one I'm blanking on the name of. It was the fantasy one. Do you know which one I'm talking about?
I
Like
think
really
so.
crazily in depth, tons of races, like they all worked very differently. Just super super deep gameplay.
I know what you're talking about. I don't remember at all what it's called.
I can't. I'm kicking myself because I totally should remember it, but I don't remember the name of it. But the designer of that, like the modder who made that, was eventually hired by Stardock to basically fix their Fantasy 4X series. After
Nice.
that, do you remember when Elemental came out and everybody hated it? He basically took that and turned it into Fallen Enchantress and rebuilt it from the ground up.
Okay. And welcome Ian to the chat. Ian is coming in late at night here. Thank you, Ian. And Ian asks, is this another type of level cap stream like the last one a few weeks ago? Yes, although my goal is not to get to level cap. I'm just trying to get to a high enough level to be continuing the epic story. technically I could be continuing the epic story where I'm at right now, no problem. It's only 3 levels higher than what I currently am, but the thing is, this particular book goes from level 88 to either 92 or 93. So, and it does it very quickly. There's not much XP in the way. Like, I might gain 1 level from all the XP. So, I have to level in order to finish this book of the epic story. And so that's why we're doing this stream.
Only another difference is that you have me here to distract you and talk about old computers and games and stuff.
And that is true as well. And considering that I've been doing some epic story recording, but I haven't had any like challenging stuff. It's just been like mostly, you know, non-combat related quests. And so this is like my first return to the Lore Master in like 6 months. And so distracting is a little bit more distracting than normal. So there we go.
Actually, since we've been talking about Civilization, I'm going to grab my copy of Civilization Chronicles here and see just what it does include.
It includes quite a lot of stuff.
Oh yeah, it basically has every Civilization game up to and including Civilization 4 without the expansion packs for Civ 4, because those hadn't come out yet.
One of my favorite things in the Civ 4 game was the tech tree printout, because they had a really nice tech tree printout, and then on the other side it had, or no, that was Age of Empires that had something else, but
I've got that in my hand right now, and I've also got the ones for Civ 3, and I think, is this a Civ 2 one? I can't tell. I'm not going to unfold it all the way to check. But it's got those, and even for Civ 1, which is kind of flimsy and tiny compared to the others. Like, these others are giant fold-out ones, and this is just like one strip of paper that folds out. But what I'm looking at is for the Civ 2 to see what it includes, because it's kind of weird with the... like, it doesn't include all the scenarios because there's copyright issues with some of them. With just some of the scenarios. Let's see. Comes with Fantastic Worlds, Conflicts and Civilization, Civilization 2, Test of Time. Let's see. Okay, it's in the book where it talks about it. It's not on the back. Yeah, that's what I was worried about. Fantastic Worlds is the expansion that I actually haven't seen all of because I didn't have it for the original. I only had vanilla Civ 2 back in the day. And the version of Fantastic Worlds that comes with Chronicles, there's a note here. Please note that due to copyright issues, we were unable to include 3 of the scenarios from the Fantastic Worlds expansion pack. So I've been kind of curious about those.
Yeah.
I would like to try them.
By the way, while we're on Civilization, there is an awesome talk by Sid Meier. I think it was at a convention or conference or something like that, and I don't remember where it is on YouTube, but it was like for the 25th anniversary or something like that of Civ, or whatever anniversary it was. And they had a talk with Sid Meier and a lot of the other game designers there, just going through the history of Civ all the way up to Civ 5. And
yeah, I love those discussions. That's actually the main reason I wanted to get Civilization Chronicles is for the book that comes with it. It's 91 pages, and I mean it's divided into different parts. It's got a letter from Sid Meier, the history of civilization. There's an interview with Sid Meier and with Soren Johnson, who was the designer on Civ 4, and that in both the history of civilization, which is like 20-something pages, like chronicling the whole history, and the interview with Sid Meier and Soren Johnson is by Troy Goodfellow. And one of my favorite podcasts, of course, is 3 Moves Ahead. But when I bought this and the first time I read this book, I hadn't heard of that podcast yet. So when I went back to reread this, I'm like, holy crap, that's Troy Goodfellow. He wrote all this. Suddenly, like, I'm hearing it in his voice. And it's like, lending even more of an air of authority to it because, like, I understand that he knows, strategy games.
Right.
And I've, on multiple occasions heard him talk about his history with the series. So yeah, that was kind of interesting. And then it's got the card game, the Civilization card game, designed by Soren Johnson as well. As far as I know, the only way to get it is in Civ Chronicles. I've yet to actually play it. I haven't found anybody to play it with yet. One of these days I will.
Alright, this next skirmish should get us to level 86, I'm hoping. It'll be very hard for this next skirmish to not get us to level 86,
While
unless
the
we
great
just
company
die
journeyed
miserably a
south
bunch.
to the aid of Aragorn, we came upon a Dunlending hag named
Unless you
Gwyn,
die
the
miserably
old
a
woman of the
bunch.
mountain.
It's
She sought to
a
raise an
collective
army of
thing
ancient
with
I'm
the
in no
chat.
aid the
danger
White
of
Hand
dying.
against Rohan.
Chat is in no
It
danger
was
of
our
dying.
duty.
The chat
Hung on
is
to
in
mine
slight
to keep her
danger.
at bay.
I mean,
Are
we
you
saw...
threatening? Are you threatening the
No,
chat?
no, no, no. I'm just saying we saw how Eladan went like way off. For all we know, one of these mobs will be coded to like jump out of the game and turn to like a Pixels Nightmare type movie in real life. It's late at night. I'm a little bit crazy, as you can tell. Yeah, I can't even imagine how different gaming would be if Sid Meier had never existed. And the people that were around Sid Meier at the time. Still there, Brannick?
Yeah, just doing a little bit of typing, and I didn't want you to hear me typing.
Yeah, it's fine.
Not trying not to distract you with that particular method.
Well, I have such a good mic that they're probably already hearing all of my clicking anyway, so I wouldn't worry about it. And you gotta be quieter than Aerithird is at his typing.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting you talk about Sid Meier, and like he honestly, it's really weird. Like he's a great and legendary designer, and not just for Civilization, but specifically when it comes to Civilization and the 4X genre. Like what he did was basically take ideas that other people had and made a much more epic game, but
Right.
really Civilization 1 is very much like a prototype proof of concept style game. It does not hold up gameplay wise, and even at the time, like the reason it was so popular and interesting was because it was doing things that were so ambitious and hadn't been tried before. Civ 2 is what really took those ideas and put systems and mechanics in place to make a good, fun, at least somewhat well-balanced game around it.
Right.
And I think one of the things a lot of people forget is like that is the reason that Sid Meier's name is on that box. It's because he created the genre and he created like this is a type of game that people will like to play. Like the it's the series that came from him. But he's only designed 2 Civilization games himself.
Yeah.
Civilization 1 and Civilization Revolution.
And I don't remember if he's involved in Civ 6 or not. I don't think he is, as far as
Well,
actual designing.
I'm sure
I mean,
he's
obviously he's
involved in all of
involved, but
But yeah, he's not. He's not the lead designer on it. Every civilization has had a different lead designer. Every
Yep.
single one.
he did design Sid Meier's Railroads, which has so many bugs. It's horrible.
Yeah, and honestly, I think that's probably his worst game.
Yeah.
I mean, I like the concept of it, and I like those style of games, but that particular title,
Has a lot of issues.
well, I don't think it works very well from a game design standpoint. Like, there's not a lot to do. It's a sandbox, which feels more like a Will Wright game to me than it does a Sid Meier game.
Right, but I mean, he also was responsible for the first Railroad Tycoon.
Right, but that's the thing. Railroads was billed as it's the real spiritual successor to Railroad Tycoon because Pop Top Software had the rights to Railroad Tycoon.
Right.
Honestly, Railroad Tycoon 2 and 3 by Pop Top Software are way better games.
Yeah.
And Pop Top Software, if you're not familiar, they also created the Tropico series,
Yep.
which has become super popular now that they're not making it. But like that concept and the core gameplay loop of Tropico, like it's still present in the first two.
And I did a Tropico 5 series, which I was actually really disappointed by because they took out many of the features that were in Tropico 4, and it just...
Yeah. Well, Tropico 4 is basically the same as Tropico 3, with a little bit better graphics.
Well-
Gameplay-wise, they're almost identical.
Gameplay-wise, they're almost identical, but they did add in quite a few longer trees and things like that. But yeah, Tropico 4 is essentially just an expansion to Tropico 3.
Yeah, and I guess-
Tropico 5, the problem with it is that they started back from the ground up, and so all of a sudden there were way less features than even in Tropico 3.
Wow. I need to go back and play the original Tropico again. That was a fun game, but I haven't played it in years. I'm curious how it'll hold up now that I've played 3 and 4.
And we just leveled
I
up.
honestly don't know.
Awesome.
You just leveled up. Congratulations.
We just leveled up.
If I leveled up, I can't congratulate myself. That's arrogant. You leveled up, so I congratulate you, sir.
Awesome.
And yes, Sid Meier's Pirates is a great game as well, and so is the remake. The Sid Meier's Pirates remake was also good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's one of my all-time favorite games for sure.
Which one? The original or the remake?
Either one.
I'm just curious because the gameplay is different enough that that's really a legit question.
Yeah, I actually think that I might like the redone one a little bit better. I don't really have a reason why. I just enjoy it more and come back to it more.
Yeah.
So
I think it's a little bit easier to go back to it
Yeah.
the remake, just because the original was in that kind of that era of PC gaming where it's like you're getting artists to try and do art that was a little bit higher resolution than you should be attempting for the display
Yeah.
at the time, which I don't know. A lot of adventure games did the same thing, and not everybody had really good art to do it with. I think Pirates is one of those games where you can tell they tried, but I don't think the art holds up in a nostalgic way as much as other games from the time period.
yeah.
That's why I think the remake holds up, I think, just a little bit better. Because the gameplay is great in both of them, but with the remake, they went for a very stylized look that doesn't date easily. Like, you can play that game in 20 years and it'll still look good because it's not trying for realistic visuals, it's going for a very stylized look. Oh wow, that's awesome. How did the pricing error for Tropico 4 go?
I doubt it was 10 cents for them, but
Well, you say that, but Microsoft legitimately did sell me a copy of Age of Empires 3 complete for 10 cents.
wow.
They
I
were
don't
trying
know
they were trying to
what.
get people to move on to their like games for Windows Live client, which is crap,
Yeah.
but yeah, I picked that up for 10 cents and I picked up Viva Pinata for $1. Those are the only games I ever had on that thing.
So what happened to Ensemble Studios anyway? I mean, obviously I know what happened to them, but why did they fail? Is my question. Do we know?
I don't know like any inside stories. Um, but they were basically swallowed up and gotten rid of.
Yeah, that was
I mean,
the biggest reason why I didn't like Microsoft for a really, really long time. Was what they did to Ensemble. But that's just me.
well, I don't think that was the plan. Um,
No, but I mean, it seems like that the third one made a ridiculous amount of money.
yeah, I don't know. I think Microsoft tried to keep them around for a while, but like the they
Well,
didn't really have a formula.
what's weird though is that they had announced I think 5 game plan, and so they had announced like the next 2 titles were good. So 5 game plan is in like the entire franchise, all 5 games,
Right.
and they had the graphics up for it and everything, and it's
Shenmue
all
was supposed to be a 5-part series as well.
well. Hey,
Look what happened
that
with Shenmue.
there's a third one coming out though.
I know. I'm actually interested because I was a big fan of Shenmue 1. I didn't care as much for Shenmue 2, but I would like to see the story completed. Even if it's only in 3 parts and the third part's crap, I still want to see a conclusion.
Yep. I mean, it's just weird that they, had all this marketing material and did everything, and had it all this planned, and then it just completely fell apart, and their company ended, and kind of the same thing with like Star Wars Battlefront 3 completely falling apart and never happening. And there's like a prototype of that game online that some developer that was working on it actually released publicly. So it's like the first. It's like a few maps, I think, and they had a really ambitious idea going, and that's probably why it never succeeded, because they were too ambitious with it for the
That
budget that they had.
that can be a real problem. It's happened to many studios.
Hmm.
One of my favorite games is never going to have a sequel because it was too ambitious for its own good. Anachronox by Storm.
Yeah.
There is no ending to that. It's like a part 1 to be continued. There's never going to be a continuation to it. It's an amazing game, but it didn't sell well. So there's no reason that any publisher is going to put enough money to make a sequel to that game. I, I mean, that's the kind of stuff that is like really annoying as someone who appreciates game design, because it's a really innovative and just fantastically designed and well realized game. but it wasn't popular. And in a
Yep.
money-driven business, like if it's not popular, and you're talking with like AAA big budget money, that's it. If you didn't complete your story, tough luck. Yeah, I mean, can you think of any other game where your mouse cursor is actually a character and like worked into the story?
Yes, I'm trying to think of what it's called though, but it's a strategy game. I
That's
cannot.
interesting. The only one I'm aware of is Anachronox.
I can see this game. I cannot think of what it's called though.
I guess it makes sense in a strategy game you could do it.
Yeah, I don't think I'm gonna be able to remember it, but I can see this game.
I mean, Anachronox is like a third-person action RPG with like turn-based JRPG style combat in the Quake 2 engine. it's There's nothing else like it.
Yeah.
And for that type of a game with like, I mean, it's the Quake 2 engine. You've got like your
While war
3D
raged in the
control and
south and the
everything.
ranges of the north were
And for that to
absent,
have a mouse cursor
brigands and
that's an actual
ruffians took an
character that's in
opportunity
your
to wrest
cutscenes and
control of
stuff.
Bree.
And like, oh man, that game was so nuts. It was incredible. Oh, I had to have told you the story about the binary code before, didn't I? In Anachronox.
Maybe.
It's probably my favorite gaming anecdote of all time. It, I was accused of being a developer and trying to pass myself off as a fan for finding something hidden in the game.
Oh
But
yeah? I
yeah,
don't think I've heard this.
oh man, it was so amazing. So I was playing through Anachronox. This is maybe a year after it came out. Like I said, the game was not popular at all, and I was following the forums very regularly because even though basically everybody had already been fired and no longer had a job or were working at other companies, some of the developers were working for a few years in their own time to release a final patch for Anachronox. So I was very closely following the Planet Anachronox forums and awaiting that patch. So while I was playing through the game, there's a lot of use of binary code in the game. Like as text, there are robots who speak in binary, things like that, just like text bubbles, you know? And there's this one scene in the game, like, first of all, there's like robot characters with like binary names. So I would, I found like a binary to ASCII translator online and was translating all this stuff. And like there were some kind of funny jokes with the names and stuff. And as I came across this stuff, I was, posting on the forums like, have you guys noticed this stuff? They're like, there's some interesting stuff hidden in the binary here. And then I found like the coolest thing ever. There's a newspaper vending machine. And one of your party members is your little robot friend, like helper robot thing, named Pal 18. And each of the different characters you can kind of swap to, like which one you're controlling at any time. Like they move as a party, but you can choose which one is actually your avatar, and they each have different like out of combat abilities, ways they can interact with the world. And Pal 18's ability is that he can interact with computers and other machinery and hack things and stuff like that. So there's basically a quest where there's this guard who wants to get his newspaper out of the machine, but it ate his money and it's not giving him his newspaper, right? Seems like a really simple, quest on its own. You switch to Pal 18, you hack it, you get him his newspaper, and tell him to go on his day. And that's all the game really tells you blatantly. But this guy who's winning his newspaper is like just beating the crap out of this newspaper machine. He's just banging on it. And when you switch to PAL 18, when you're hacking it, there's this animation of all this binary coming up on the screen, and you have to manually advance through it. So there's a whole screen full of this binary code as you're hacking. That this basically it's the newspaper vending machine talking to PAL 18. There's something there. So I like. It took over an hour, but I like manually wrote down, was very careful not to get anything wrong, wrote down like all the ones and zeros in a notebook so that I could then, go into the translator and manually type all the stuff in, because that's the only way I could do it at the time. So for over an hour, while I'm in this screen, I can still hear this guy just beating the crap out of this vending machine. Just bang, bang, bang for like over an hour. I finally translate the message, and it's like, "Hello, PAL 18. Here's the newspaper. Please tell that colossal asshole to stop hitting me." That's got to be the coolest thing I've ever found hidden in a game, for sure.
Yeah. Alright, well, I think that this will probably be my last skirmish, everybody.
Okay. That does suck to hear that there won't be a Dark Corners of the Earth sequel. Not
Yeah.
that the first one was particularly good, but parts of it were amazing. I mean, the whole the Shadow over Innsmouth, like the escape from the hotel and everything, like that part was amazing. That's probably the most Lovecraftian Lovecraft moment I've had in a game, like reliving that part of the story. Of course, the story in the game, was very different, but like that one element, I felt like I was playing a different game entirely.
And the StarCraft Ghost trailer really makes me wish that that game exists. I know that the game
I
would
think
be.
you and everybody else, man.
I know that the game would probably be absolutely horrible, but man, that
that's
trailer
why-
looks good.
That's why they would have canceled it.
Yeah.
If it wasn't fun, I mean, Blizzard is the type of company that if they're not happy with a project, they can afford to just cancel it outright, and it doesn't matter how many years they've spent money making it. Like, they can afford to take that loss.
Yep.
I mean, so many millions of monthly subscriptions will do that for you.
Although now that they're owned by Activision, maybe not quite as much, but
Well, I mean, A, you're right, but B, they're technically not owned by Activision.
they're technically partners, but
They
Activision
merged
basically
with Activision.
Activision apparently basically said that they have to release a game a year, or an expansion at least, or some type of content every year. So that costs money.
Yep.
And this boss is tough.
Oh yeah, Sam's definitely right. Like Dark Corners of the Earth, my experience, basically everything up to that hotel room attack and the whole escape, and maybe about 10 or 15 minutes after, were amazing. And then after that, the game is very hit or miss. Like it starts getting really boring, and just the design is Honestly, it's really crap in a lot of places, and I wasn't able to finish it because it got so bad. Um, but man, the beginning of that game was so good. Like they just needed to stick the landing.
So I don't know why I feel so underpowered, except that I'm a lore master. But something's not going right.
Where's your soldier?
Well, the boss ran all the way back to the start, so I couldn't summon him.
Oh,
Yeah, but I got him back now. But that's the second time I think I've died. All of a sudden, now that I'm 86, it seems like everything's a little bit tougher. I mean,
that might,
compared
that
to...
might be one of those like level transitions where
Right.
the
But
difficulty spikes.
compared to my champion, the minstrel, and the Bjorning... Well, I guess I haven't gotten a Bjorning up this high, but I'm assuming Bjorning. Um, but compared to my other two classes, this is definitely the hardest I've had at this level. Which is kind of expected. I knew that the Lore Master would not be as easy as the other classes, but I thought that they had fixed some of the balance issues with Lore Master at higher levels, but maybe not. Or
I
maybe I'm just horrible at the
I
class.
I can't tell you. I have a lore master. I haven't played him in a very long time. I think the last time I actually played my lore master was when I used him to go through and get the like side with the mayor in the Yule festival, with the first year of the Yule festival when they added that to the game. And because he's the one who sided with the mayor, he's a jerk, and I don't want to play him.
See, that's why you just should have the policy of never doing festivals.
But then I'd miss out on Bull Roarer's Brew and Drunken
This
Fence
is
Walking.
true. This is true.
And you know I love Drunken Fence Walking.
But yeah, I've tried each of the festivals once, and except for the Halloween one, I've never really liked any of the others enough to go back to them.
Oh, and you've seen my poorly hidden chest screenshot, right?
Yeah.
Most epic screenshot ever. Should I put a link in the chat?
Yeah, if you want to.
Well, I mean, it'll come up in autocomplete. I can pull it up pretty much any time. But yeah, the story behind this is I'm in the haunted burrow on my burglar, waiting for the poorly hidden chest timer to run out so that I can loot it. So while I'm there, I've got a few more minutes to wait, so I decide to take some screenshots. I do like this slash smoke thing, or maybe I use some pipeweed. I don't remember. I'm gonna try and get a screenshot, and then right as I take the screenshot, someone else walks into frame. Comedy gold.
Yep, it's great. Stay away, troll.
Are you calling me a troll?
No. I mean, if you want, I can, but...
I'd prefer you didn't. But I mean, I am here to distract you, so maybe
Well.
technically I am. I don't know.
That's true.
Guess it depends on how you look at things.
Have I told you at all about E-League?
I don't know.
It's a basically television tournament on U.S. television that involves Counter-Strike Go.
Interesting.
And the prize is $1.4 million. It's on, I believe, TBS. And it's every Friday night from, I think it's 7 to 10, somewhere in that time range. Central Time. And so it's like Friday night primetime television on TBS.
And it's just CS:GO.
It's either it's some form of Counter-Strike. But
Is
yeah.
it any good?
Oh,
Is it
it's
entertaining?
fantastic. They have teams from all around the world that are competing.
Well, I mean,
And
that's surprising because generally, I mean, I like FPS games as an esport from a player perspective because there's a lot of skill and there's a lot of great stories, but it's not a very presentable like spectator sport.
it is hard to tell at times what's going on, but especially if you, I don't know if it's as easy to tell now, but especially watching the first week, they actually laid everything out, and I think they spent like the first hour just explaining the game to viewers. The problem comes with people who haven't seen that as well, but
Well, I mean, it's also just from like a logistical standpoint. Like you're always looking from a person's viewpoint, even if that person is a spectator. Like it's incredibly hard to predict where the action is going to
well,
be
here's the thing is I
in time.
think that it's hard to tell how they're doing it, but I think that they actually have multiple people who are spectating at once, so that they're actually able
Right.
to switch in a producer's room between the different perspectives.
Right, that
Um,
maybe even then that's an incredibly difficult job to do. Like
Plus,
it's not impossible. I mean, like ESPN guys do that for sports all the
right.
time.
From
But
what
that's
I have
also ESPN.
right, from what I have seen, almost every single time they're able to get the kill in shot.
That's actually really
It's
really impressive.
it's actually amazingly. I don't know how they do it. I have no idea how
I mean,
they're
'cause
able to do it that quick.
That's why like Dota and League of Legends are so good for esports is
Right.
because it makes sense from a spectator's perspective.
I think part of it is that they know who the main key team members are, and so they're able to,
Well, you definitely have
No.
to have really good commentary to make it work.
which they do. They have two commentators that are like sole commentators, plus they have three people at this desk that are kind of like the hosts of the show. Which it's weird that the commentators aren't the hosts, but they're not
No,
for
that's
some reason.
that's not weird.
Well, I mean, it's weird in
I
an
watch soccer all the time. Like,
right.
I
It makes
follow
sense
the Premier
from a
League,
sports
and
point of view.
they
It's
do the exact
weird.
thing.
It's weird to see video games do that because it's not something you're used to when you're watching games. So,
I don't know. As someone
but
who wants to appreciate esports in the same way as traditional sports,
they
like,
they
I
build
think
up
it's
they build up players though, and so they tell you who's like the best players on each team. They tell you where the different teams rank, and really spend the first part of each week just trying to get your emotional attachment to different people, and that you've never met before at all, and really explain how who these players are and how good they are and things like that. And as somebody who has never watched Counter-Strike for very long before this, it's absolutely amazing. It has me hooked. My dad, who has never watched any type of esport whatsoever, was able to actually track what was going on better than I was. So it seems like it's actually fairly easy to get into, which
that's really cool.
which is
actually.
amazing. Yeah, I recommend watching it this coming Friday. They only have they have 6 weeks
What
of
time
like
did you say it's on?
it's on I think from 7 to 10. It might be from 6 to 9. I'm not sure.
You do know on Fridays that's when we record the Academy, right?
I do.
I'm not gonna be watching it on Friday. I'm
They
sorry.
also though Twitch stream throughout the week, so you should be able to look up on there. And I think they still do it in studio, and so have like the whole setup and everything. But yeah, they built a studio that's just for this at the Turner studio stuff in Georgia, I think. And they've flown these teams out from all over the world to be competing in this, and the set looks like one of those South Korean StarCraft sets. I mean, it's really high quality, like gaming set. So they put a lot of money into this, and it really does feel like the next level of esports.
Honestly, I mean, that's just really surprising to me that it's an FPS.
It was to me too. I was expecting it to be a different game. I was not expecting to get as
I mean,
into it, but
Dota, I can completely see. As a spectator sport, that works.
yeah.
I mean, I I enjoy watching FPS matches and stuff because I can appreciate it, but like going after a mass market, that is a tough job.
I think that they're achieving it though. I mean, they have like big sponsors like Arby's and Buffalo Wild Wings and all the usual sports sponsor type
Well,
people.
well, I mean, from what you say, it sounds like they're putting enough money into the presentation that they're able to, fight against the problems that FPS has as a spectator sport. Because it's a great esport as far as playing it, and like the skill involved. And having different roles and excelling in different areas, like there's a lot of great team sport dynamics involved in some FPS games, CSGO being only one of them. I'm more an Unreal Tournament fan myself, but it's just from a spectator perspective, there's a lot of obstacles that have to be overcome for that to work, and from what you're saying, it sounds like they're putting the money into overcoming those.
It seems like it. They have, depending on how much time they have, sometimes they'll play like packages that will like explain the game. Since this is the first television appearance of esports in general, um, it's really interesting. It's fun to watch, and even if this doesn't end up successful, it sets a precedent for the potential for there to be future incursions into television and or just higher quality esports, and it's really cool. They did a fantastic job with it, in my opinion. I don't know if they're going to be able to get the mass market appeal or not, but they haven't canceled it yet, and it's been going for
That's good.
five. It's been going for 4 weeks now. I think this coming week's going to be the fifth week.
Well, I mean, we'll
So
see if it's still here after 4 years.
right,
But
yeah.
hopefully it's a good step forward.
But yeah, and so they're gonna have basically they have matches throughout the week that weed out some of the teams, and then the finalists from that week go on to be on television at the end of the week. So it's the best teams are the ones that end up on television that way. And then each week they have different people go through the preliminaries and stuff. So I think they have well over 30 teams in this tournament. And at the end of each week, I think each team wins 50,000, whoever ends up being the winner, per week. And then it's a 1.4 million prize at the end. So it's pretty interesting. I feel like it's as watchable as poker is.
Poker's very watchable.
Uh, yes, I mean it depends.
If you have good present, I mean, the
Right.
reason poker became watchable, the reason that it got so popular and blew up like in the span of a year and became so popular was because of a simple idea
Yep.
of cameras were small enough that we could show the cards
Yep.
without showing them to everyone else at the table. And once you could convey that information to the viewer without spoiling the game, it became fascinating to watch.
Yeah.
For people who don't even understand poker that well, like that's what did it.
Yep. I agree, and it's actually fun to watch poker now. I mean, it was before, but it's much more now that you
Well, I
have
mean,
the
now
math out
that
of it.
it's already blown up and it was super popular, a lot of people are burned out on it, and I think it's more
Yeah,
difficult now. Like for it to be interesting now, you have to have good commentators because the
you
moment
do.
someone sounds like an idiot, like most people who are interested in watching poker by now have gotten to the point where they understand the game, and if the commentators are not good, they're gonna pick up on it immediately.
Well, and what's great is that they have a live studio audience at each of these games that just goes crazy. I mean, they're chanting USA.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
You know,
that's I I've seen a lot of esports competitions that are like that.
right? But it's just it's more intense here. They've interviewed a lot of players, and all of them have said that even though that this is a smaller crowd than some of the biggest events, it's by far the loudest and most engaged crowd that they've ever had. It's just something about, I think, the live television and it being on television and
Yeah.
things like that just really adds
Oh, I'm
to
sure. I'm sure.
the whole feel of it. And it's 3 hours every week, and yet I find myself having a hard time not watching all 3 hours all at once because I DVR it, and it's just really good. I really enjoy it. So
Yeah, I wish it was in a different time slot because it sounds like something I would like to watch.
I haven't watched the Twitch streams, but it seems like that those might actually be. They say that they're filmed in studio, so I'm guessing that they're up to a similar quality as far as production value. So you might want to watch those. They have it open to crowds then too. So,
Interesting.
but anyway, we are still streaming, and I'm not skirmishing anymore. So I think that this is a good place to end the stream. Thank you,
I
everyone.
I haven't been watching. Are you just like running around randomly while we talk?
I am. That's what I do. So anyway, thank you,
It must be
everyone.
very interesting for the viewers.
Oh, I'm sure it is the most interesting thing that they have ever seen. So, anyway, thank you everyone so much for watching, and I'll see you again real soon. Probably not too far away because I'm gonna need to level again. Not far from now. So
And thanks for
maybe,
inviting me on.
yeah. Thanks for coming on, Brennick. And so maybe this coming week I might do another stream, or it might not be for a while. But I will definitely have to return to leveling more on this character. So
And
that
check
shouldn't be
out
too
Pine
far
Leaf
away.
Countdown.
And check out Pineleaf Countdown at clandestine-games.com, right?
Yep.
All right. So, anyway, thank you everyone so much for watching, and we'll see you again real soon for more content.